Shabbat Shalom to everyone again, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to speak to you this evening. And as I say every week, it's a privilege and it's an honor, and I thank the congregation for allowing me to do so. Living under tyranny is a terrible curse. A person lives in fear that they will anger the authorities and become an enemy of the people, being harassed, incarcerated, or even killed. Welcome to modern Hong Kong today. The blessing of living in a democratic society is that we're able to embrace our individual power, in effect to determine what we want to do and when we want to do it. How we use our power differs from one individual to the next. Some people are reticent to use their power, or they don't feel that they are powerful. Most of them become followers. There are people who are self-directed. Artists, independent entrepreneurs are like this. They do their own thing. They use their time and resources and creativity to build a life where they answer only to themselves. And then there are leaders, people who seek power to direct the lives of others. Sometimes they do it to achieve wealth, or they seek power for the sake of power. Their reason to lead is self-glorification. I think many politicians are like this. I sometimes think that their only purpose is to hold on to power for power's sake. The great leaders are the ones who seek to lead because of noble, higher purposes. They want to use their power for virtuous causes. I think some of our great military leaders are these kinds of people. Many of these men and women use their creativity and natural leadership to serve a higher purpose, to care for their country. They could have made other choices and did other things that probably would have been safer and more lucrative. But they have the sense of higher purpose and dedication to our country, and we are incredibly grateful to them. But what about religious leaders? What do we make of them? And let me stand outside of myself to look at myself along with the other clergy. Religious leaders are people like everyone else. Some are directed by inflated egos. They think that they have some kind of pipeline to God, or at least they pretend to do so, or have too high of opinion of their own wisdom, and they even can act in toxic ways and hurt other people. Unfortunately, there's a lot of news about that in various religious traditions. There are other religious leaders who truly have their egos in check and know that they are only representatives of some higher principle that's called God. Thank goodness in Jewish tradition and Jewish history, we've had some extraordinary leaders. King David, he literally brought the tribes of Israel together and made them a nation. Judah Maccabee brought a small group of people together and defeated the Greeks and rededicated the temple. The Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidism, took a group of his disciples and made them into a profound movement that still affects the Jewish community. Theodor Herzl was this person who had this ability to motivate people and to believe that there was the possibility of a Jewish state. And the person who is one of my heroes, most people are not completely knowledgeable about him, Leo Baeck, who was the leader of the German Jews during the Holocaust. He saved Jews, and as a rabbinic leader of the Jewish community, he wouldn't abandon his community, but he went to Theresienstadt to be with them. But when it comes to the history of the Jews, there is one leader who is the model of all leaders, and that is obviously Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our teacher. Without him, there is nothing that would have happened in Judaism, and we wouldn't be here. We know his biography well. He was a Hebrew who was brought up in Pharaoh's house. He represented the Jewish people in front of Pharaoh to convince Pharaoh to let the people of Israel go. He motivated the people to leave Egypt, even when they rebuffed the idea of it, even rejected him. He established this glorious court system that enabled the people of Israel to really self-govern in a lot of ways. He gave the Jewish people the Torah, the constitution of the Jewish people. He addressed multiple rebellions with courage. He even convinced God at times not to destroy the Jewish people because God had gotten frustrated with them. He is the gold standard of leadership. What do his actions teach us about leadership? You know, one of the people that I study, he's become one of my rebbes. He unfortunately died too young this past year, Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, wrote an incredible essay where he speaks of Jewish leaders, and he identified 7 principles of leadership, every one of them affirmed by Moses. And I want you to hear these because not only does it tell us about Moses and his leadership, I think it tells us what we should expect from our leaders, our religious leaders, and I think most especially our political leaders. Principle number 1, leadership begins with taking responsibility. It's the basic Harry Truman idea, the buck stops here. A natural leader responds to a given situation, and a true leader responds to the challenge, not blaming someone else. Principle 2, no one can lead alone. No one can do everything. And one of the brilliant parts of Moses' life is he surrounded himself with people who sustained him. Moses depended on Aaron and Miriam and Jethro and Joshua and, of course, God. To carry out his vision, he needed not to believe he could do it all by himself. Principle number 3, leadership is about the future. Moses never lost his sight on the goal. He wanted to bring the people forward, to create a community, ultimately to get to the land of Israel. He focused on the big picture. He didn't get tied up in all kinds of trivialities. Principle number 4, leaders learn. I started investigating this and I found out that John Adams had a library of 3,000 books. And Thomas Jefferson had a library of 6,000 books. Leaders study. Principle number 5, leadership means believing in the people that you lead. Moses saw strength in the Hebrews that they didn't find in themselves. And he never gave up on them even when they rebelled. Principle number 6, leadership involves sense of timing and pace. The leader has to stand in front, and yet we know something that he or she must lead them out, meaning he must carry the people with him. He can't go or she can't go at a pace that is greater than the people themselves. And finally, principle number 7 is leadership is stressful and emotionally demanding. Moses gives everything. He has times of disappointment. And as the Torah reads, he was appearing to get tired, especially when we read this time of the year of the Torah. He did not enter the promised land because I believe God understood that he is burned out. A good leader knows when to step aside and allow for new leadership. Friends, the future of the Jewish people, the future of American Jews, the future of every synagogue and Jewish institution is rooted in whether thoughtful, reasonable, creative people can lead. It is an honor to lead, and leaders should be shown honor. These are difficult times. The Jews face many external and internal challenges. I pray that in our generation, leaders will arise as good as the ones before us. Not necessarily as good as Moses, that's impossible. But leaders who have vision and strength to carry on and to believe in this Jewish mission that all of us are involved in. Our religion and our people have so much to give to the world. We need leaders who can enable us to fulfill our destiny. and help us to achieve the best within us. Let's all try to be a little bit like Moses. Shabbat